Welcome, everybody, to the How to Be Happy podcast. I have Courtney Jacobs as our guest today, and I'm so excited because we're talking about happiness, my favorite subject. Courtney, welcome.
Hi, Red. It's amazing to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to jump right in. I want to know something. I want to know your opinion on this. Why are mental health issues, particularly depression and anxiety, skyrocketing despite all of the SSRIs that are being given?
Yeah. Wow. We're really diving in. And that's a really great question. I want to just sort of backtrack a little bit and why I feel like I'm qualified to answer such a question. I dealt with lifelong mental health issues. Um, and Western medicine wasn't really able to help me. And I started to get sick, and I found some functional doctors and nutritionists who are able to help heal my body. I don't have any of the conditions that I used to have. And so I went into functional nutrition to help give this gift.
Wow,
Okay.
that's awesome.
So that's my background. So your question is, why is there so much mental health, right? Depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar. Why is this going around? And more people are getting put on medication. Um, what I want everybody to know, because many of your listeners have one of these conditions diagnosed by an actual doctor. Your diagnosis of depression or anxiety, ADHD, that is not who you are. That is not a lifelong condition that you have. Anxiety or depression is a symptom of the body, much like a pimple or a headache or a bum knee, right? It's a symptom, not a lifelong condition. Um, why are we getting these symptoms? Well, there's a host of things that we can talk about in this call of why the body actually breaks down. But what happens is when somebody goes to a psychiatrist or to a doctor because they're having depression, manic episodes, anxiety, panic attacks, ADHD where they can't focus, their doctor will tell them that they're not making the right like neurochemicals, that their brain doesn't do that right, and that here's a solution, Zoloft, and here's a solution, Paxil. Um, except for
And
Zoloft or Paxil, uh, their problem isn't a deficiency in Zoloft or a deficiency in Paxil. And it's not because their brain is unable to make the right neurotransmitters. It's that their body's in dysbiosis. And once we bring their body back into balance, those conditions literally go away. They are a symptom of metabolic dysfunction. So if you've been diagnosed with any of these conditions, I want you to hear me. Your body is producing a symptom that when we get your body into balance, it will not present these things. I know because I've experienced it.
that's depression, anxiety, OCD, ADHD. You
Oh,
mentioned you mentioned Paxil. Paxil is mentioned in Tony Robbins' amazing new book called Life Force, and
mhm.
he says that it has a 50% effectiveness rate, which is the exact same effectiveness rate of a placebo, which is essentially a sugar pill.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so most of the pills. So I also want to say symptoms of mental disorders are also bipolar and schizophrenia. Most schizophrenia. Now, I am not suggesting anybody come off their medication without trained professionals. But what I am saying is even schizophrenia can be put into a state of remission. Yes.
So, for the last 2 years, I've been helping, or at least the last year, I've been helping people work on the overcoming depression, anxiety, ADHD on the mental side. And
Yeah.
you really brought to my awareness just in the last couple of months just how important the food side of it is and the diet part. And you shared that amazing Huberman podcast with me, with the doctor was talking about the incredible things he's done. And I know you've had some incredible success with your clients too, doing the same thing. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I had by 6 different psychiatrists 6 different medical professionals. I was diagnosed with depression. Then I was diagnosed with severe depression. At one point, I was diagnosed with anxiety. I had panic attacks. I took a test and I got diagnosed for ADHD. And I had a gentleman tell me I was bipolar. And basically, their solution was they would give me a drug and I would start taking that drug and I would have side effects, sexual side effects, weight gain, dry mouth, all this. Some of them like made me emotionally numb. Some made me a little bit better, but I was never thriving. But most of them didn't work. So then they would say, let's try this other one on top of it. So then we would try the other one. And then I would say, I can't sleep. And then they say, well, let's give you something to sleep now. And they really convinced me that these were all lifelong. So tell me your original question again.
Just how
Oh,
the
how do I
doctor,
help my
like
clients?
how
Yeah.
do by using food and diet, how can you radically change someone's health condition?
Yeah. Okay. So
Mental health condition.
yeah, mental health conditions. So there was my mental health conditions, right? Um, I was so sad. I self-harmed. I was dangerous with myself, okay? If somebody who was in a place where I could be could get out of it. So what was actually going on, right? Because it wasn't a Wellbutrin deficiency and it wasn't all of these things and the drugs didn't work. Well, I had systemic inflammation everywhere from my food. That meant my brain was literally on fire. It couldn't make the right neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, because my brain was on fire. I was bringing in a bunch of inflammatory foods, and my gut brain barrier access, like my blood brain barrier access, was creating all of this inflammation. As I started to heal my gut, I got rid of SIBO. I took the inflammation down. I healed my gut. I got my labs run. So if there are tons of different lab markers, so I have many, many, many clients come to me and we're able to help them be set free of the medications and actually bring their bodies back into balance. And can I just tell you, it's amazing when I see somebody on a first session and they're like so depressed and they're on some meds and they're not feeling great, to like have them 8 months later, a year later, be thriving more than they were 10 years ago. Anyway, that's another story.
Well, there's no greater feeling in the world because I do it on the emotional side, right? When a client calls me back and says, "Thank you for changing my life and my whole family's life," I'm like, better than any real estate deal I ever did in my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. And most people don't know that there's another way out, but there's a whole host of labs that need to be run. Here's basic things. This young guy just came to me. He's on 2 antidepressants and a sleeping pill. Um, I said, has anybody checked your vitamin D level? Well, no. Okay. Well, if your vitamin D is low, your mood's going to be in the tank, period, right? So we check his vitamin D. It is straight bottom barrel. I mean, a doctor, it is I really, I mean, I feel like they don't even check basic things. I can't say anything other than doctors only just prescribe a drug and they're not checking basic levels on your body.
I think the word you wanted to use was negligent. I'll use it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very similar. There's so many similarities between the mental and the food and the diet side,
Yeah.
right?
I
Because
mean,
how many times do you go to a doctor where the doctor's like, "Well, tell me about your stress levels. Tell me about your stress as a child." They never do, and then they just want to label and give drugs, which
right,
oftentimes don't
right,
help.
right. Okay. So they're negligent because they're just giving a prescription which has a list of side effects this big. They didn't ask this young male, are you drinking water? Are you sleeping? What is your vitamin D level? Is your thyroid working properly? Are your omega 3 6 ratio, is that off? Because if that's off, you're going to have neural inflammation and your brain won't be able to make the right chemicals. Hormones, basic labs need to be run on somebody to make sure that your body's even in a place that it can be making the right neurochemicals. And so once those labs are checked, then we know what to go after. So you always want to think, what is root cause healing? If you're having anxiety, meltdowns, right? It's not because you can't handle life. You are an amazing human who was born with the same capacity as all of us. Your brain is just not working on your side right now, but you can get it working on your side. And so you run the labs and you think, what is the root cause that's giving? So that's what I think. What's the root cause giving my patient anxiety? And then we start digging, right? So, like, I just had a woman who was having a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety. We go through everything, we get everything checked, and she's still having anxiety. And then I think, I wonder about her thyroid. But my doctor said my thyroid looks great. So I run deeper thyroid labs than what the doctor had, and her T3 was totally off. Her
Wow.
T3 was in the tank, and if her T3 is in the tank, she's going to have anxiety. We rate. Oh, and she had stubborn weight loss. I mean, her she couldn't lose any weight. So we raise her T3, her anxiety goes away, her weight starts dropping. I mean, it's like amazing. But somebody took the time to help her find the root cause of her medical condition. What was the metabolic dysfunction? And so once we found that and fixed that, the anxiety goes down.
Yeah, so in terms of labs, I get labs run every quarter.
Mhm.
I'm like really, really into that. But before I started doing that, I don't know, a year ago, you had me run a lab for the omega 6 versus omega 3. I never even heard of it until you told me. And
Yeah.
sure enough, my ratios were off. Can you speak a little bit? I remember what you were telling me, the omega 6s in a lot of restaurant oils and how if they're off, there's problems, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our omega-3 6 ratio is a marker that I run on myself about every 4 months. I run it on myself because when I was in a severe depression bout, I found out that my omega-3 6s were in the tank. And as I brought those levels back into balance, it's like my brain got sharper on me again. Um, what that is we all know omega-3s are healthy for us. They're an anti-inflammatory fat. Omega-6s are an inflammatory product in our body. Not one is better than the other. Our immune system needs both. When we get cut, our immune system needs to be able to create inflammation, bring inflammation there so that we can heal it. And then we need to be able to anti-inflame it. So you need omega 6 and omega 3. Most Americans don't have any omega 3s. So you don't have anything in the body to come lower the inflammation when the immune system has gone awry.
And
So
what are they lacking? Where is omega 3 found?
yeah, great question. So salmon, sardines, fish oils. Um, so
Avocado?
Uh, some avocado, some avocado. People like to say walnuts and flax seeds, although that type of omega-3 is extremely hard for the body to convert over. So you're really going to want to get it from an animal source. So your best are fatty fish like salmon and sardines, or a high quality fish oil. But you really want to test first. And if anybody had any questions about the testing, they could always reach out to me because if you have any mental symptoms, please test and find out what's going on with your body, because you can feel a million times better.
And where can they find you on Instagram
On
at?
Instagram at Final Key Wellness.
Okay. And then omega 6. So people have a lot of omega 6 and not omega 3. So what are they eating that's giving them a lot of omega 6?
Yeah, so when it's a balance, and probably 80% of Americans have way too much omega-6 fatty acids in our diet. That's happened from a handful of different things. One is in the 1980s, we really started pumping seed oils on people. That's canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil, peanut oil. If you have canola oil at home, please throw it out. That's a rancid oil before it ever hits the shelf. It affects our insulin levels. It drives inflammation. There's an amazing YouTube called The Oiling of America, explaining what happened to fats in our world. But
The only oil I have is avocado oil and olive oil.
yeah, yeah, that's great. Animal oils are really great too. Ghee is an amazing source of oil to cook with.
That is delicious too. You turned me on to that
Delicious,
a while ago.
delicious coconut oil and tallow. But so if you're eating out, if you're cooking with any of these vegetable oils, and if you're buying conventional meats, so what happened is we started feeding all of our cattle grains. And then if you look at egg cartons, they'll say vegetarian fed chickens. Well, that's great, but chickens aren't vegetarians, right? Cows aren't supposed to eat sugar all day. Grains, what they feed them, is literally sugar all day. So when they're fed sugar all day, they have a ton of omega-6 fatty acids in them. When an animal eats grass, their natural diet, there's a balance of omega-3s. There's actually omega-3 fatty acids in red meat, but it has to be 100% grass-fed or grass-finished red meat. And then you're also getting omega-3s in there. So people started eating conventional meat. We started feeding our animals foods that aren't actually their diet. That affected our omega-6s. We were told that these seed oils were healthy. They're not. They're very damaging for heart health. And then if your omega-3 6 fatty acid ratio is off, it's not just mental health, but you are at a like 5 times greater risk of a cardiac event. Yeah,
Whoa.
because the inflammation is in every cell of your body, not just
So
your
guys,
brain.
so throw out the canola oils. Be really careful eating in restaurants and eating fried food, especially.
Yeah.
You turn me on to the grass, so organic grass-fed beef, right? Costco doesn't have it, but you know who does have it, and everyone has one of these. Walmart and freaking Target have organic grass-fed beef. So
Yeah,
go
so
go
and
do those.
when you're reading labels, you also want to see that it says 100% grass-fed or grass-finished. If it doesn't say those two things, they're using grass-fed as a marketing term. They feed them grass until 90 days before slaughter, then they cram them with corn. So they make them very sick and marbleized and fatty, and then they slaughter them. So
So guys, some of us take more care of our cars than we do our body, and we can buy another car, but we can't buy another body. So everyone should having labs run, not just going to a physical at your doctor once a year.
no,
They should be every quarter, right? And we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking about a couple $100s, and Courtney can certainly help you with that. Courtney, let's talk about exercise. Does exercise play in any of this?
yeah. Um,
And SSRIs, does exercise and SSRIs have anything to do with each other?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I just want to say one more thing about the doctors is doctors are taught a prescription to give you. Like they're not actually taught to bring conditions into remission. So you always want to work with a practitioner who's looking for root cause and who can help you find remission, right? Not a band-aid on a symptom, which will give you side effects.
Let
So
me
your
say something
question
about
was
root cause is so important. Whether you have mental pain or physical pain, the only way you solve it is to go to the source of that pain. And that's what I do with my coaching. And that's exactly what Courtney does, just on a different, instead of going the mental route, she goes the diet and exercise route. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So you asked me about exercise. There are actually peer-reviewed studies. This is not a joke. Peer-reviewed studies, multiple, hundreds of them, that show that exercise has a higher rate of efficacy than SSRIs, meaning more people get benefit from daily exercise. Here's the thing. Number one, the sun. Every cell in our body needs the sun. We need the sunlight in the retinas of our eyes. We need those photons to come in our eyes so that we build the right hormones in our body, right? Melatonin, serotonin, oxytocin. So our cells need it, but okay. Here's the thing, we are human, okay? When you hear advice, I need to work out 30 minutes 3 times a week, that is false information. You need to move your body every day. Every day.
And that
I'm
doesn't mean
not,
going to the gym for 2 hours and
I'm not
killing
saying
yourself.
I'm not saying going to kill yourself in the gym.
Yeah.
I'm saying through evolution, our bodies moved every day.
Yeah.
You should have a tracker. If you're not going 7,500 steps a day, you're not getting general movement. Like we need general movement. Like, okay, you have depression. Anybody in here has depression, anxiety, anything, OCD, you can get rid of it. you also need to stand up for yourself and take some action. That means helping find a practitioner who can help you set up a diet and lifestyle plan. You have to get out in the sun. You have to move your body. You get to drink water. You get to eat healthy food. You get to run your labs, and then you get to feel good again. You get to feel good again.
So, Courtney, I've known you for a while, and I know that it's not just diet and exercise. Like you're amazing at helping people find overall happiness. So, this is the How to Be Happy podcast, right? Talk to us a little bit about happiness and your journey on happiness, and how you've gotten to where you are, and what advice you can give others.
Yeah, so many people are struggling with self-esteem and feeling good about themselves. And they're just scrolling on social media and watching Netflix. And they say, on Monday, I'm going to start. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. And they don't. I'm gonna eat something healthy tomorrow for lunch. And they don't. Every time you don't follow through with one of the promises you make to yourself, you hurt your insides. So if you want good self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things, right? And that's challenging in the beginning. I have a group that helps people rewrite their story and learn to start showing up for themselves. Because a lot of you can hear, like, okay, I know I should be working out and doing these things, but I don't know what to do. Or I don't know how to get myself to do it. Like, I think on Monday I have like the best intentions. There's nothing wrong with you, but you can get in a community of people who are changing their whole life and learn the skills of self-discipline. I did not have the skills of self-discipline. I gained and lost the same 60 pounds multiple times. I would get super depressed and I would think, what is going on? So there's a bunch of inflammation on my brain. I'm not showing up for myself. I'm not doing esteemable things. And I feel like garbage. And then literally, I promise you, like whoever you are out there, we can get you feeling good in 2 to 3 weeks. It may take a little bit of time for your body to catch up, right? You could start feeling awesome by showing up for yourself. Even if you don't have finances for a practitioner, the thing that you can do is choose a commitment and then to like choose something. I'm going to move 20 minutes every day this week. And then you text a friend and say, please, let's do this together. And then you text them or somebody you highly have respect for, to reach out to them and say, I'm going to work out every day this week. I'm going to text you when I do. And every time you show up for yourself, it's like you're putting in the bank account that you feel good for yourself.
So, Courtney, you mentioned story, right? And I think story is what creates happiness, and it robs us of our happiness.
Yeah.
So, my story for 47 years, because of what I went through as a child, was that I wasn't worthy. And that feeling of not being worthy drove all kinds of behaviors from a subconscious level that I didn't even know were happening, right? Part of those were self-destructive. Part of those were, I always ate pretty well, but I used to use alcohol, I used to use marijuana as coping mechanisms. Isn't it the story a lot of times that fuels the issue of eating poorly, eating unhealthy, not exercising? And then that just contributes to even more bad things in the body and the brain, inflaming the brain. And then that just further like
Yeah.
vilifies or reinforces the story. And it's this nasty circle, right?
Yes. Yeah. So what would happen to me is I would lose a bunch of weight and I would feel amazing. Um, but I wasn't eating the right diet for my body. And then I would binge, right? Then I would binge and I would create all of this inflammation in my body and I would have shame from the binging. Here I go again. I'm on the cycle, blah, 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 blah. And now I have two things going on. My brain is telling me a story. I'm never going to get out of this. I'm going to put all the weight back on. Um, and shame is an awful feeling. And I have the inflammation on my brain. So now I can't make as good a cognitive decisions. So then I go out and do it again, right? Now I have more shame, more inflammation. I go buy more carbohydrates that create more inflammation. Um, and then it's shame story, inflammation, shame story, inflammation. And then I'm, 2 months later, I don't want to wake up in the morning. And it doesn't have to get that bad for you. It could just be like a low level, like, I feel like life is like whatever, to like actual depression, but it comes from that cycle. There was one other thing I really need to say to people. Many, many, many people I say this to, and they say, oh, yes, but my psychiatrist told me that this is lifelong and I eat healthy. And I say, great, that's amazing. And they cannot hear me. But the thing is, you may
The
think that,
psychiatrist says what?
well, no, no, no. The psychiatrist tells them it's lifelong, and then they say,
What is
and
it? The
whatever
mental
their
condition?
condition is, whatever
Right.
their condition is. And they say, and I eat healthy. And then I say, yeah, but what are you eating? Well, I have yogurt and fruit for breakfast, and sometimes I eat oatmeal. And then for lunch, I have toast and this other thing. And I like pause right there, right? They've had straight sugar,
Sugars and everything.
which creates so much inflammation. So the last time when my body got into recovery, and I say I got set free, I went to this holistic psychiatrist, and she was $700 an hour, and I was so like, I I need help. I need out of this. She had me sign it. To even work with her, you cannot be eating gluten and dairy. Those foods are known inflammatories for the brain. And it doesn't mean that you can't have them maybe later, but probably not the gluten. And and then many people have resistance. I love bread. The gluten can't be affecting this. All I want to say is she's highly revered. I am no longer on any medication and do not have any of those symptoms. What I want to say is, if what you're doing is not working, if what you're doing is not working or kind of working, please be open minded that maybe your what looks like a healthy diet is contributing to your mental health. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome stuff. So, Courtney, tell us again where people can reach you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Final Key Wellness, or you can email me at Courtney at Final Key Wellness. And the company name is Final Key because you are your final key. You are how you'll set yourself free. And what we do is we help you with all of the tools to set yourself free.
Yep. You have all you need to be happy now. You just have to put those puzzle pieces together. So that was another awesome show. If you guys like the podcast, please rate it, review it, share it, sing it to the nation. Courtney, any final parting things that are super important that you want to share?
Yeah, one, I want to thank you, Brad. I'm grateful for what you're doing in the world and helping set people free. And the other thing that I need to say is whoever you are, whatever you have going on, whether it's mental health stuff or autoimmune stuff or hormonal stuff, the human body is insanely resilient and able to innately take itself back to health given the right circumstances. And so, if you're not feeling well, please know that hope is possible. If I can go from like that dangerous of mental state to fine, now this didn't happen overnight, but it can happen for you too.
Yeah. So if you're suffering in any way, shape, or form in your life, you don't have to suffer. So reach out to Courtney,
Oh,
reach out to me, and know that in a matter of weeks, not years, not decades, your life can radically change.
yeah.
All right. That's another edition of How to Be Happy podcast. And remember, love heals all. Take care.
Bye.